Hello, freedom loving friends, and welcome to my channel. I actually just without any planning, without any initial planning, I made this decision to make this video recording. The reason behind that, my motivation to make this video, which was completely unplanned, was learning about the Supreme Court's decision, which was declared Monday, just a couple of days ago, on the status of the suppressors or silencers. So please allow me just to kind of read the initial two paragraphs from the website. I also watched a complete full YouTube video on that one. But let me just read this briefly and I will just delve into it. Supreme Court declines to hear challenge to federal gun suppressor restrictions. The Supreme Court on Monday declined to hear a challenge to federal restrictions on gun suppressors, muzzle attachments that muffle the sound of a gunshot, leaving in place a law that requires such devices be registered. The appeal came from Shane Cox, who owns a military surplus store in Kansas, and Jeremy Kettler, who purchased a gun suppressor from him. The men were convicted under the National Firearms Act of failing to register the device, but appealed the decision, saying that the law infringes on their Second Amendment rights. The appeals court then ruled that a suppressor is not a bearable weapon protected under the Second Amendment. I will repeat this. The appeals court then ruled that a suppressor is not a bearable weapon protected under the Second Amendment. Kettler said he bought the suppressor to avoid further harm to his hearing, which was damaged while he served in the military. He said Cox had led him to believe that the suppressors made and sold in the same state were not required to be registered. Well, obviously it was not a correct recommendation, and both men ended up in the legal system because of this transaction. So it is also interesting that this situation, which the Supreme Court declared or basically rejected to hear the challenge to the federal court, which was originally established in 1934 about the suppressors, came after May 31st Virginia shootings, which was ended with 12 people getting killed. And in this unfortunate incident, the gunman was using, one of the things he was using was a silencer with his guns, and extended magazines and silencer and other types of guns. So it's basically the time-wise, it's a kind of unfortunate situation because this happened May 31st, and today is June 21st, and it just was rejected June 19th, which is only a couple of weeks, 3 weeks after the incident. So timing is kind of unfortunate because obviously after each shooting, whether it's a school shooting or any other type of shooting, in this case like the one in the Virginia, the feelings are up, and that's a little bit harder to maybe gather and garner enough support to process this legal appeal, the appeal court's decision by the Supreme Court. So what they're saying is my understanding is this: the Supreme Court is saying that they're not going to hear this challenge from the appeals court. And the justification, the legal justification behind that is the silencers are not weapons, therefore they're not protected under the Second Amendment like any other firearms, which has a lot of flaws to it. And there is a lot of arguments supporting this. This is not a solid legal case to reject the silencers and forcing the person who was selling and buying it to get it registered just like a firearm. That's the requirement. Again, these people, these two guys from Kansas, one of them is the store owner, he is a gun dealer, and the other one is a customer. The reason why they found themselves in the legal process because the buyer, did not register the silencer. And the gun store owner did not go ahead with the usual process of background checks. By the way, buying a silencer from the legal perspective, from the formality perspective, is a lot more difficult than buying a regular handgun. So there is a lot more. I mean, there's no instant background check. There's a lot more background check. It might take quite a while, and there's a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of hoops a person has to go through because, again, kind of like the situation similar to some states, coming up with all these obstacles. A person who's applying for a permit to carry a gun, like you got to prove that in those states such as New York and New Jersey, Massachusetts and California. You got to prove that you have an absolutely justifiable need. So this is basically these two guys. This is how they came up to challenge the federal law. Now think about it. The silencers serve a lot of good purposes, or suppressors. People use these two words interchangeably, silencers and suppressors, and sometimes use one, sometimes the other one. So first off, just like in the examples, the actual customer who bought this silencer, suppressor, from the store was a veteran, and he had he kind of lost a little bit of his hearing because of his military experience, and he wanted to continue exercising his Second Amendment constitutional right to own and also do some practice shooting, target shooting, maybe hunting. But because of his hearing loss, he wanted to use the suppressor just so he can basically give himself a little bit break in that way, so he doesn't get any worse than his hearing loss. So it's serving that kind of purpose, first off. Secondly, for those suppressors that can be implemented on long guns for hunting purposes, can actually reduce the noise pollution in the vicinity. So basically, it's reducing the muffling, the loud noise coming out of the gunfire, and kind of it's a good thing for people, right, not to be bothered by this in the kind of close proximity or in the vicinity. So it's serving also another purpose. But unfortunately, the silencer was kind of demystified, in a sense that as if the person who's purchasing a silencer is almost like up to no good. He's planning on murder or something, a burglary, robbery or something like that, and or he just he's planning to kill somebody. He has some kind of beef with. So basically, that's how it kind of portrayed in the main media, which is far from the truth. The silencers are good things, and actually it's helping also, like when you go to range and start shooting for target practice using a silencer. One, it is helping with your hearing. Two, it is also reducing the recoil. So for target practice, especially for somebody who's trying to improve his or her shooting skills, using a silencer and shooting with it is helpful to work on that person's shooting skills and improving and training, kind of trying different combinations to improve his or her shooting skills. So it actually serves several positive purposes. On the other hand, of course, one can argue against silencers and saying that, in fact, it was one of those things, one of those arguments that they were saying in a situation, and they brought this in Virginia shooting, they brought the Virginia shooting case. So they were saying, if a shooter, an active shooter in a situation like in a school environment or a mall or public place and church or some kind of a federal building or public building, if there is an active shooting going on, and if they call the cops, and if the person is using a suppressor, then the cops would think, or people would think, because of the reduced noise, muffled noise, they might think actually the gun is farther away, and they might mislead the officers, or officers can mislead themselves to the location of the active shooter because of that, because of the fact that the shooter is using the suppressor. In my opinion, this is a very weak argument. It doesn't hold any water. There are definitely other ways of identifying active shooter's location in any of those kinds of places. It is almost naive to kind of use this as an excuse, such as there is an active shooting taking place, but because of the silencer, people are not hearing the gunshots. Therefore, they're not taking any cover. They're not protecting themselves because they're not hearing it, and therefore, the active shooter can easily move around the building, and anybody that he is finding, I'm using the word he because almost 99.999% of the case, I think there's except one exception as far as I know, is that he would easily pick and choose, like a cherry picking his victims and kill them right there, and no one is protected because no one is even expecting this active shooter is coming toward their location. Well, I don't think so. The reason why I believe this argument is not holding any water is this. In any of those public shooting, like an active shooter cases such as in school environments, let's say in school environment, or a shopping mall, or a church, or a movie theater, all these happen and will continue to happen. Upon hearing the gunshot, the first couple gunshots, they absolutely obviously understand what's going on, and the first thing happens is panic breaks in. So after the panic, once the panic breaks out, what happens? People are not acting rationally. People are just almost randomly, without any kind of strategic thinking or planning. They're trying to take cover, and they're not acting really rationally. And time and again, it is proven that active shooter, until a police comes in or SWAT team comes in and shoots him down, hunts him down and kills him there, he keeps shooting and he keeps killing. Everything is planned. He basically strategically plans the location, all the exits, all the doors, which ones are locked, which ones are not locked, where people can go, driveways, the surroundings of the building, the rooms, you name it. He plans this weeks or if not months ahead. It just doesn't happen randomly like this. The guy is pissed at something, the active shooter, and next day goes to school or to the other building, whatever he wants to go and kill. It doesn't work like this. Lots of planning. So people, after hearing, or let me put it this way, people hearing the gunshot or hearing the muffled gunshot and being confused about the location of the active shooter is not holding a lot of water in this kind of environment. If you break it down to its components and analyze that, I think anyone with a healthy mind can say that this would not hold any water within the legal system. But there are other reasons why Supreme Court rejected the constitutionality of not registering and taxing the suppressors, taxing to the amount of $200 excise tax. So in this case, there is unconstitutionality. I'm sorry, I couldn't say it right. Unconstitutionality of using the tax authorization of the state, the government. Why? In this case, silencers that are made for non-commercial purposes cannot be taxed. But ATF basically was applying this state taxing authority and enforcing it. So why is it? The question is, why is it that government is taxing $200 the silencers because it's a silencer? And again, it is not made for commercial purposes. The person at home can make his own silencer using his own, whatever the methods and tools available or material available to them. There are many different ways of manufacturing a silencer. And there are people who can do this. At home, using their equipment, they can manufacture a decent suppressors. And then the government is saying that to those people that this is now illegal for you to possess because he's not trying to sell it, to possess this silencer. You gotta pay $200 tax for owning it. That is extremely unconstitutional. This is a direct violation of the Second Amendment rights. So, the current situation is, like I said, the Supreme Court is not going to hear, declined to hear the challenge to this federal law, which was originally passed in 1934. That's one of those roadblocks on the way to spread the freedom, to support the Constitution and Second Amendment, and to protect the rights of the citizens to bear arms. This is one of the most sensitive, important, significant amendments of the U.S. Constitution. So I want to kind of stop here. That was the actual subject matter that I wanted to talk about. This new case, the silencers. Along with that, I briefly mentioned about the Virginia shooting which occurred Virginia Beach, May 31st, where 12 people lost their lives. And I want to jump into a little bit of a kind of a history of and get overall general situation of the carry laws and concealed carry laws and right to bear arms situation. It's interesting that when you kind of go back to 1975, excuse me, early 70s, mid 70s, when they looked at it to understand the kind of a social opinion, the public opinion about ownership of guns, only about 14% of the people were actually supporting gun ownership, being in possession of firearms, and carrying them. When you look at it today, the public opinion is almost at 50% in favor of owning, being in possession of firearms, and carrying them. That's quite a bit of a jump. Since 1975, it's been about 48 years now. In 48 years, what happened that the public opinion changed in favor of supporting the gun ownership and Second Amendment rights to protect the gun ownership rights of American citizens. Also look at the other way around. Number of states today, right now, supporting the gun or concealed carry rights without a permit, which is called constitutional carry. The constitutional carry is being the fact that the citizen, if the citizen is fitting the proper definition of a person who can carry, who can own a gun, who can purchase a gun, own a gun, and carry a gun, meaning he doesn't have any felony, he is mentally right, all those things, is 27. 27 states today is supporting the constitutional carry rights. Minnesota, the state that I'm living in, I have to have a permit, and I have to renew my permit every 5 years because the state of Minnesota is not a constitutional carry state. But still, there has been a lot of progress. So again, from the mid-70s, if you look back mid-70s, there's been a lot of progress. It was then only, I think, 6 or 7 states had that, provision for their citizens to own and carry guns. From 6 or 7, I don't remember the exact number, in that time frame, in about 50 years. Now 27 states. And we're counting. We know that it's going to be a lot higher. The important significance of 27 is now we're exceeding 50%. Half of the American states, half the states in the federal union are supporting constitutional carry rights. With the constant and non-stop work of the National Rifle Association and ILA, and also other institutions such as NSSF, National Shooting Sports Foundation, and other organizations supporting the case, we will be continuing this fight until almost the entire nation will understand and respect this constitutional right of owning and carrying guns even without a permit, which is called constitutional carry rights. Now, let's take a look at a little bit of the crime argument that gun control advocates constantly bring about. The current administration, the Biden administration, has been coming up with the same argument, the crime control. But it's ludicrous to see that instead of going after the criminal, they're going after the law-abiding citizen who is in ownership of his legal guns without violating any laws at all. So this citizen has every right to protect himself, his family, his loved ones from those who don't care about law. Let's not forget that the criminals don't care whether they're allowed to, carry guns or not. They will carry guns, and they will carry those guns with ill intent. There is no other way around that. This is absolutely the way it works in this environment. Law-abiding, good citizens has to be the good man with the gun to stop the bad man with the gun. And we all know that. It takes a good man with a gun to stop the bad man with a gun. One other statistics I want to share with you. Within that time frame that I mentioned before, mid-70s, up until now, if anyone analyzes the crime statistics nationwide, and if you kind of come up with general nationwide metric and look at the distribution of the crimes with firearms, the crimes are committed with firearms, there is a significant reduction in those areas that over time passed and legislated the legal gun ownership with or without permit. Those areas with those law-abiding citizens who carry guns, so significant amount of reduction in compared to the time frame where that was not the case. And there is no exception to that rule. There is no exception to this statistical fact. Any sane person must wonder about that. Any sane person should bring this into discussion when somebody from gun control side coming up and saying that the reason why there is a crime is the existence of guns, instead of saying reason why there is a crime is existence of the criminal. Taking away the gun out of the equation is not going to resolve anything. I want to mention just another ridiculous fact, which is assault weapons. I'm going to say assault weapons in quotation marks because I feel dumb to say assault weapon, but I have to say it because I want to bring a discussion kind of revolving around that. As we all know, they're trying to, Biden administration currently, Biden himself is using constantly assault weapons, assault weapons, assault weapons, military grade weapons. What makes a weapon assault weapon or a military grade weapon? None of these guns sold in the market, those badass looking AR-15 type of rifles with their folding stocks, with their optics, with their badass black looks and stuff like that, to public who is not well versed in gun parlor, they are made to think, they are made to believe that those are military style assault weapons. You know the war. No one needs AR-15. None of the AR-15 sold in the marketplace are automatic weapons. What is the definition of fully automatic weapon? When your finger is stationary on the trigger, meaning you're not moving your finger. It is depressed status, it is in depressed status, and the gun keeps shooting until it spends the last round in the magazine. That is a fully automatic gun. None of the guns sold in the marketplace are like this. It takes a whole lot of other type of effort to find a fully automatic gun. Those are true military grade rifles. So, then what is the deal? Why is there's that much hype against AR-15 type of rifles? I want to mention right now another statistics yet. When you look at, again, from the police records, the total crime statistics nationwide, from every state, from every county, city, state, when you combine all the figures, number of people who were killed using a rifle, a long gun, is so minuscule, it's almost negligible in the scheme of the entire murders and stuff. When you look at all the murders, aggravated robberies, aggravated assaults, first degree murders, second degree murders, all those using firearms. Again, the key word is using firearms. Overwhelming majority, like maybe, I don't know exact percentage, but I'm confident to say 98 to 99% at least are handguns, pistols mostly, or maybe revolvers. So this is a fact. This is data obtained and extracted from the national police records for all 50 states. And if the murder rate using long guns is so extremely low to the point that it can be literally considered negligible, then why is that hype? Why is it that there is that much even talk about AR-15, assault guns, this and that? My logic doesn't get it. My brain doesn't wrap around that. It doesn't compute with me. Look at the numbers, look at the statistics, and then how can one come up and say, this is the case? Let's go back to Clinton's, ban on guns overall. They came up with the same type of argument. It was again reducing the crime. And all these semi-automatic guns were outlawed. It was banned. They reduced the capacity, magazine capacities, a lot of restrictions came on the semi-automatic guns. during the Clinton administration. 10 years after, they sunset the law. Why is that? Well, after all, every law, every decision, everything should be subject to analyses. Objective, logical, comprehensive scrutiny and analysis to understand its efficacy. And what they found was the ban on those semi-automatic guns, the ban on the size of the magazines or the capacity of the magazines, all those things, all those restrictions, which were basically a lot, they didn't do a diddly squat on as far as reducing the crime rate nationwide. Then they sunsetted. They said, hey, we applied this 10 years. That's enough time frame, and we don't see anything. It didn't even make a dent. Now today, Biden administration talking about the rifles and AR-15s, assault weapons, and they're rolling the crime. And if they basically make them illegal, then the crime is going to go down. Is so stupid. It really is challenging that law, that ban passed by Clinton administration. Why is it like that? Can someone explain it to me? I'm not going to make comments. I'm not going to get delve into other things. Can someone with the right mind, with some sanity, with some education in numbers maybe, with some ability to have rational thinking, analytical mind maybe a little bit, tell me that given these reports, given the data analyses applied to all these situations, given all these records, given all these research supporting the fact that reducing guns and controlling guns in general, I'm using the term now, have any impact? There is absolutely no correlation whatsoever at all. Because criminals are going to find those guns whether you make them legal or illegal. Your bans will definitely impact law-abiding good citizens because they will abide the law, and if you make it illegal, they will give up their guns, they will stay without any protection, and they will be vulnerable. Look at our school situation. Lots of school shootings. Hundreds of kills. Children so far. Let's take a look at the past 10, 20 years. Hundreds of little kids lost their lives because of the stupidity of the decision that those guys, the Democrats, made the school zones gun-free zones. Gun-free zone, in other words, means for those psychopaths, it is a free hunting grounds. I repeat, gun-free zone for those psychopaths is nothing but the free hunting grounds. He knows when he gets there with his guns, there is not a single person, nobody will ever challenge him. And he's a sicko, he's a sick psychopath, and he knows that he's going to be killed, but he wants to be killed by SWAT team member. And until then, he wants to keep killing as many as he can. That's why he's going there with several guns, with lots of extended magazines, hundreds of ammo, and he has everything planned, and he starts his thing, his action. Hence, active shooter. The only way to protect those children, the only way to protect our little children in our school system is to put armed teachers, to put armed guards in every school, and put signs. Some school districts are doing that, and saying that on the sign: if you come to this building with the intent of harming our children, we will kill you. This is a sign put in at those schools, premises. Those schools with this kind of protection, they don't see any action like that. Why do you think so? So again, question, same question. Can some insane person with some training, education, rationality, analytical mind help me to understand why they don't apply this? They don't apply this uniformly for all the schools in the nation. Wishful thinking is not going to bring any solution. Knowing that there is a problem, but not taking action because it's not fitting in your ideal dream world in your mind, is not going to help with the situation. Unfortunately, this is an ugly world. There's a lot of psychos, sickos, and evil men with evil, ill intent. And thinking that hopefully this is not the world we're living in, that hope is not going to help anything at all. So, reducing the guns. Just the estimated number of long guns in this country is over 300 million. By the way, out of 300 million long guns, according to, again, same statistics obtained from the police records, court records, about, give and take, 300 people a year get killed with long guns. Probably most of them are hunting accidents. That's 1 in a million. 1 in a million in a given year, a person gets killed with a long gun. That's the 1 in a million chance, 1 in a million occurrence, and they are using this as an excuse to ban so-called assault weapons, namely AR-15, and actually anything that's looking like a badass to them, anything that doesn't have a wooden stock. If it's brown, it's a good gun. If it's a brown rifle, it's a good rifle. If it's a black rifle, it's a bad rifle. As if brown rifles don't kill. They're nice. But black rifles are badass. They kill. In fact, browns kill too. Cool, they know that. I think the brown rifles could kill also. But black rifles maybe kill more. It kills more. Am I making any sense? Both kills, but this kills more. Funny, stupid, dumb? Yes, that's how dumb it is. So I think my personal take, my personal opinion is the fight against the freedoms. I mean, the fight from the gun control side, and all the fight that NRA and institutions supporting it are putting to protect the U.S. constitutional rights and Second Amendment will expand. What did I say? 27 states right now with constitutional carry. I know, and I know it because I know it. It will be way more than 35. It will exceed 35. And I don't know. I cannot, give a time frame. Maybe next 5, maybe next 10 years. And it'll be eventually recognized as the case. Second Amendment is not an amendment to be messed with. You shall not infringe with American citizens' right to bear arms. Thank you very much.